A boy is sleeping peacefully in his bed. Suddenly a book falls from the shelf above his bed onto his face. Waking up, rubbing his head, the boy was confused about what happened. He remembered being caught in an accident while he was exploring the ruins, wondering if he was rescued. Looking around, the boy questioned where he was, since his surroundings did not look like a hospital. Just then, his eyes fell on the mirror in front of his bed. Shocked, the boy looked at the reflection, wondering what happened to his face. Looking down, he realized that even his body was not the same as before. He had been a young, charming archaeologist just moments ago, but now he was just an ordinary high schooler, wondering if this was transmigration. Getting up from the bed, something caught his eyes. Looking at the books at his bedside, he wondered what they were about. Picking them up to see various titles on beast taming and beast care, with one being about beast women. Just then, various memories of different places flooded his brain. Wondering if these were his memories of this life, the boy realized that he had transmigrated, and he was no longer on Earth. He was now on a place called the Blue Planet. On this planet, the plants, animals, and even the mountains, rivers, lakes, wind, and snow could potentially evolve into transcendent beasts and gain intelligence. They could also gain mighty powers. And to a person from Earth like him, they were divine beasts. The humans here had their own power, as well known as taming. Some were capable of creating alternate dimensions in their minds by meditating, allowing them to capture and tame the evolved beasts. With the taming dimension, the human civilization flourished. It was called the Taming era. Tamers were the elite in this era, but the beasts still dominated the areas beyond the humans' territory. Powerful beasts could sometimes spell disaster for humans. Looking into his memory, he realized that in this world he was called Shòu. Shòu had lost his family and was orphaned by a rampage. He had a rough idea about the taming world now. Even though he had transmigrated, he wouldn't actually call this an improvement. His name was still Shòu, but he was no longer the mythologist Shòu of planet Earth. Touching on the system window in front of him, the system confirmed his identity, opening up his breeder list and his weekly mission list. However, as soon as he opened the system, numerous ads about various offers popped up in front of him. Closing the ads, he realized that he was just an ordinary intern breeder at the Glacier City's breeding base, and the reason he was interning there was to become a tamer. With a difficult family situation, bottom-class worker status, and loans, he realized that he couldn't run away from these problems even after coming to this world, thinking that he should clear today's missions for now, as the list showed that he had to feed the snow wolves and collect green cottonworms' growth data. If his memory served him right, snow wolves lived in packs and were extremely ferocious carnivores. Thinking if the company was really going to send an intern to do this alone. But it should be fine, though, as he had the talent of telepathy. His results in the theory classes weren't the only reason he was made an intern at the breeding base. It was also thanks to his unique taming talent of telepathy. With his taming talent, he could communicate with all kinds of beings. It was a useless skill in actual combat, but it was still an important one. It was much sought after in the fields of diplomacy, education, and breeding research. Thinking that he should be able to get along with the snow wolves well with this talent, Shòu thought he would give it a try now to get used to it. As he opened his taming dimension, opening his eyes, he suddenly found himself floating in a cube inside a space. Just then he was surprised as a book with a blue crystal on it appeared before him. Wondering if this was his second talent. Shòu's new taming talent, the skills handbook, had been unlocked. Surprised that he had already acquired his second talent, Shòu started looking through the book. When humans activated their taming dimension for the first time, they also awakened a taming talent. The taming talents were categorized into enhancement and unique talents with an approximate ratio of 9:1. Enhancement talents could be used to strengthen certain types of pet beasts, making it a typical combat talent. Unique talents, on the other hand, were complex, with each talent being greatly different from one another. Shòu's original talent, telepathy, was the most common skill among unique talents. It was not exactly powerful or rare, but came in handy when it came to job hunting. To think that he would get a second talent now was quite a surprise. Shòu could copy the skills of transcendent beasts and keep them in his handbook, allowing him to teach the skills he had collected to other beasts. But there were 3 conditions to copy the skills of other transcendent beasts. First, he had to personally witness the beast using the skill. Then he had to touch the beast. And lastly, the 2 actions had to be completed within an hour. These were the conditions to copy and record the skills. There was another condition to teach the recorded skill to another beast, as the amount of stamina required for the teaching process will differ depending on the level of the skill. The beast being taught also needed to have a certain affinity to the skill being taught. There were a lot of restrictions, but the handbook that copied, recorded, and taught the skills would certainly earn him the envy of the other tamers. There were 3 factors that determined the strength of a tamer besides the skills of the pet beasts. The first one was the development of the tamer's own taming skill. the second being skill tomes, and lastly, the evolution of taming. Of the three, the first one was related to the development of the tamer's own skills. The second and third factors are related to the tamer's knowledge and experience, with the skill handbook allowing him to master many skills. Sitting in the mental space, Shòu thought about what some would call having two talents cheating, and he could also not recall having two talents from his body's memories. But it seemed possible if it was him, as he was a transmigrator and not an ordinary person to begin with. The Shòu here possessed the talent of telepathy, and the transmigrator possessed the talent of copying, allowing him to use both. Calming himself, he realized that this was a good thing, thinking that this was his only bonus as a transmigrator. Suddenly, the globe in his room started beeping, dragging Shòu out of his mental dimension as he realized that he was getting late, hurrying as he did not want to let the snow wolves go hungry. At the breeding base, Shòu looked around for something, as he finally found the snow wolf feed stored in containers. Looking at the box filled with meat, Shòu said how it was no wonder that not everyone was cut out to be a tamer, for these pet beasts were being fed better than people. Some other workers came along asking Shòu if he was going to feed the snow wolves, telling him to be careful as they were not friendly, and joking how that dandelion clump in the health center was quite skilled at healing if anything happened to him. The worker told Shòu not to listen to his friend's jokes as there was nothing to worry about with the Wolf King here, asking him if he needed some help. But Shòu answered that he was fine, and that he would be done soon, as he rode away thinking how he did not remember any of them. He recalled that his self in this world's personality was shaped by what had happened to his family, usually keeping to himself as he preferred it that way. That's why he hadn't made any friends in his workplace. He didn't mingle much with any of the smaller circles, acting like a lone wolf. That is why he was lacking in interpersonal relationships, thinking about how it wasn't a bad thing for now. Deciding to keep it that way and remaining a recluse who could use telepathy, his current priority was to take his time and get used to this world, for he could always build relationships afterwards. Reaching the snow wolves area, he started unloading the meat as the snow wolves surrounded him. Hearing their roars, Shòu turned back immediately, only to find a pack of snow wolves running at him roaring. His memories were especially clear at times like these as he remembered the details about the snow wolves. With his telepathy, he was able to read their minds as he heard them thinking why it took so long for him to get here and that they were hungry, with one of them even thinking that Shòu looked delicious, wondering if they should eat him. Shòu was able to understand them, cursing his job, wondering if he was here as a breeder or an additional item on the menu. As the wolves got closer, he wondered where the Wolf King was, nervously calling out for help. Just then, a big wolf roared loudly, surprising everyone in the area. Looking at Shòu, he approached him, as all the other wolves bowed down, making way for him. Shòu realizes that this must be the Wolf King. As the Wolf King approached Shòu, he tapped him on the forehead with his snout, with Shòu remarking that it felt cold, wondering if he was marked. Thinking how the Wolf King had left his scent on him, he realized that it was much more civilized than peeing on him. Just then, the skill handbook suddenly came out of his body. Wondering why it had shown itself, the skill handbook opened, showing to Shòu's surprise that it had recorded the Wolf King's skill. The skill handbook notified Shòu that it had successfully copied the skill Intimidate. This meant that he could teach this skill to a pet beast as soon as he had one, wondering if he could raise a beast king since the skill was a sign of kingly aptitude. Shòu thought that this was great, praising his own amazing talent for taming. The Wolf King then moved away from Shòu with a roar, making him wonder if it was scared. He told the Wolf King it was fine, for he was way too happy right now, bringing out more food for them. It seemed like the mark was working as the other wolves were now warming up to him, thinking about how it was just like the other intern had said. As Shòu was petting the wolves, suddenly markers appeared above their heads, with the system saying that he could teach them the Intimidate skill. He had now confirmed that he could raise a Wolf King. But it would certainly become a problem if he taught them the skill without much consideration, thinking that he should get his job done first, even though it was a shame that he was not able to copy the skills of the other snow wolves. But aside from the Wolf King, they would not have been using Intimidate either way, for the other wolves would not use their skill during mealtime without good reason. He now had a high-level mental skill, and that was good enough for him. Just then on his way, the system popped up again, notifying him that he could teach Intimidate to the greenback eagle flying above, making Shòu realize that he might be able to raise more than just a Wolf King, such as raising a Bird King too. If only he did not have any work to do, he would have given it a try. He was still an intern, so he needed to start from the basics, thinking that there were 3 months before the end of his internship, so he should stick to the program and learn the ropes. Just then his eyes fell upon a billboard, showcasing the iron bamboo base, promoting the Iron Eater Panda. This was the beast his previous self had booked. On planet Earth they were called pandas, but here they were only middle-level transcendent beasts. It was because the Iron Eaters only had one single skill called Harden, which must have been because they were too lazy. He had already paid the deposit, and liked their rarity and appearance, thinking that he was happy with his previous self's choice. And thanks to the beast's limited level and skills along with the promotion, he could afford this. Iron Eaters were able to consume metals and minerals which would then be used when they activated Harden. With the Intimidate skill that he had copied, and a sensing or agility-related skill, his Iron Eater might end up becoming a Panda King. He was sure the other tamers had never heard of something like this before. But right now, he could only take out a loan after getting his breeder's certificate. Only then could he pick up the Iron Eater cub that he had booked, thinking that he must take it seriously. With that, he went off to his next job, in hopes that he might be able to copy another skill. Entering the green cottonworm experimental area in the van, the instructor announced that the intern's job was to observe and record the activities and growth of the green cottonworms, saying how it wouldn't be an easy job, but he wanted them to do it well. For if they did a shabby job, he would make them repeat it on thousands of worms. Shòu looked around at the green cottonworm enclosures, thinking how there were a lot of them, but they were weak. The good thing was they had room for growth and could also evolve. Looking at their stats, Shòu tried to greet the cottonworms, approaching to touch them. But the green cottonworms started to squeak and shake in fear, spraying Shòu with their silk on his face. Trying to remove the silk, he wondered if they were telling him to go away, surprised as they were supposed to be harmless. Just then a cottonworm sat on Shòu's finger as the system notified him that it could be taught Intimidate, shocking Shòu. Shòu asked the worm if it was the green cottonworm king, surprised at its affinity with the skill. But as the worm leapt off of Shòu's finger, the system skill handbook notified him that the silk skill had been recorded, showing the skill information as Shòu was not amused by it, thinking that even though it was useless, it was still a skill. He then noticed that he could teach the silk skill to the green cottonworms who already had the skill, realizing that the repeated teaching of a skill can help improve mastery. But he decided that he shouldn't do it here as he was still surrounded by other people. Back at his apartment as night had fallen, Shòu researched about the 51 pet beasts being bred in the Glacier City's base. Among them, there weren't any sensing skills that he could copy. The skills learned by the young beasts here were basically fundamental and low in rank, so there was not much use in copying them. He wondered if there was a limit to his copying ability, thinking that before he could find out about the actual limit, he should focus on copying middle and high-level skills. Just then, he remembered about the dandelion clump in the health center and its healing abilities. There were many wild pet beasts in Glacier City, and there were also many tamers. So now it was time for him to change his target. At the break of dawn, Shòu started making his way to his destination. The pet beast with the healing abilities should be at the infirmary of the residential area. Reaching the infirmary, Shòu opened the door, holding his hand up with his body trembling. The doctor asked him what was wrong, as he explained to her that he had sprained his wrist. The doctor then called him near her, asking to take a look at his hand. The doctor observed how Shòu looked to be an intern breeder, and a newly graduated one to boot, thinking how kids like him often like to make a scene, but she was used to it. As Shòu asked if his hand would affect his work tomorrow, the doctor told him that it was nothing serious, and that he would be fine with a simple treatment. Snapping her fingers as she summoned her beast behind her, the dandelion beast touched Shòu's hand, healing it, with the doctor telling him that he would be fine soon. He told her that he did sprain his wrist, but it did not hurt that much, saying that he was impressed by the breeding base's infirmary. As the treatment ended, the skill handbook notified Shòu that the quick heal skill had been recorded. It was an extremely rare healing skill, and he had successfully copied it just as planned, confirming he could touch the pet beasts at the breeding beast and copy their skills. But this was only a test, as he would have many more chances in the upcoming months. Sending her beast away, the doctor told him that he should be fine now, saying that he was overreacting as her white dandelion told her that it was just a minor injury. Shòu said that he will be more careful next time, thanking her. Coming out of the infirmary, he realized that even though he had been testing his copying skill, he did disturb her with his minor injury, thinking that he would come back to thank her again with some snacks that plant beasts like. The doctors here used their pet beasts' healing skills to treat an injury no matter how minor, guessing that they were trying to increase their pet beast's mastery of the skill. With his skills handbook, he could improve his pet beasts' mastery by reteaching them the same skill, thinking how it was like a cheat code, improving the training efficiency of his beast. He then recalled how the doctor he had just met was also an intern tamer. When the tamers and the first pet beast's skills reach a certain level, they could take part in the unified examination of the Tamers Association, and by passing the examination, an intern tamer would be promoted to a professional tamer. With two amazing talents, Shòu wondered how long it would take for him to go from an intern tamer to an official one, as he dozed himself to sleep. 3 months later, Shòu had reached the limit of his skills handbook's collection. Glad that he hadn't filled it with low-level skills, as that would have been a waste. Supersight, as the name suggested, was a skill that enhanced the beast's eyesight. He had copied it from the pack of wind-type bird beasts patrolling the breeding base. It was not quite the sensing skill that he had wanted, but it would have to do for now. The skill Absolute Slumber had been copied from a high transcendent pet beast of one of the breeders named Nefer, allowing the pet beast using this skill to fall into a deep sleep and recover rapidly. With Absolute Slumber and Quick Heal, he could save a whole lot on treating his pet beasts if they got hurt in the future. He was sure that his Iron Eater would understand that he was just too broke now. Shòu had figured that the skills handbook would have a limit, but having just 5 slots for a start was too low. Thinking that maybe he needed to develop some unique taming talent to add more pages to the handbook, so he had to level up. Tamers could improve their abilities through meditation. By meditating, they continuously strengthened, modified, and expanded their own taming dimensions. A more solid taming dimension was able to accommodate pet beasts of higher level and impose stronger restrictions on them. Pet beasts also grew faster with a better environment inside the taming dimension. With a larger taming dimension, a tamer could contract more beasts. So tamers selectively developed their own dimensions based on their needs. A tamer's taming talents would also be strengthened with the enhancement of their dimension. So his goal now was to become a professional tamer within a year. Looking at his breeder's certificate, Shòu knew that it was now time to meet his Iron Eater. Taking the bus to the Iron Bamboo breeding base, Shòu recalled how the nation he was currently in was known as the glorious ancient Eastern nation by the other nations. It was one of the oldest nations, and was also called the Eastern Glory. The glacier city he lived in was a second-tier city. His census register was under Pingcheng district, a suburban area of the glacier city. Iron Eaters were a specialty pet beast of the Pingcheng district, so he will meet the Iron Eater he had booked here as he got off the bus. Excited to meet his Iron Eater as he entered the Iron Bamboo breeding base. Reaching all the way to the top of the stairs at the Iron Bamboo breeding base, Shòu exclaimed how there were too many stairs, saying how it was no wonder that this place was deserted. But he was suddenly startled by a roar as he looked to see a giant Iron Eater in front of him. The giant Iron Eater walked towards him, greeting Shòu to his utter surprise. The panda said that he worked here and that his name was Lin Xiuzhu, with Shòu wondering why they couldn't hire someone normal. Lin then told Shòu not to be surprised, explaining that he was just wearing a panda costume. Shòu wondered who in their right mind would wear a costume when it was this hot outside, asking Lin if they were feeling stuffy wearing something like this. Lin explained that they were doing this to understand an Iron Eater's feelings better, saying that they needed to understand them in order to breed them well, for it was the most basic thing a breeder could learn. Shòu admitting that he had a point. Lin then pointed out how Shòu was also a breeding major, saying how it explained why he was able to understand him, as Shòu noted that he could tell it was a girl under the costume from that voice. Shòu said that Lin was right, but he was still a novice and nowhere comparable to Lin herself. Lin said that he flattered her, offering to sell him 2 of the panda costumes at a discounted price after he picked his pet beast up. Shòu thought that his plan to get a discount by calling her senior had backfired. Lin then led Shòu inside of the building, taking the panda costume off, and revealing herself to be a beautiful black-haired girl. Shòu thought that she must love pandas a lot, judging from her sweater, hoping that she was not going to try to sell him that as well. Lin then guided him to the reception desk, saying that all the documents had been sorted, telling him that he should be able to pick up his pet beast today, with Shòu asking if he could go and pick one now. Lin explained that he had come a little too late, and that if he had come earlier, they could have let him pick an Iron Eater of his choice. But from their current batch of Iron Eaters, only one was left. Explaining that this Iron Eater's constitution and personality were slightly troublesome, as this reminded Shòu of Ash Ketchum's situation. Going into the forest, Shòu saw a bunch of Iron Eaters. All of them were sleeping, saying how the Iron Eaters looked like a bunch of loafers. Lin explained that this was not the season when they were active, so the bigger Iron Eaters tend to be more docile right now. But the little ones were more lively, pointing at a baby Iron Eater. Looking at the cub, Shòu asked if that was the one he had booked, as a small Iron Eater with a grumpy face came out. Lin confirmed that this was one Shòu's, as he commented on how it looked normal. But the Iron Eater rushed headfirst into a tree, making Shòu say that maybe it was not the brightest. Rolling back from the impact, The panda sat back upright with a serious face. Lin explained that there were some complications when this cub was born, saying that the labor didn't go smoothly and it had a slightly weaker constitution compared to the other iron eater cubs. The other cubs of his batch had learned to harden when they were only 1 year old, but he was the only one who had yet to pick up the skill. Being a late bloomer was a sign of a lack of talent. That is why this cub was not yet picked up until now. That is also why it developed a personality that was unlike the others. Most of the time, iron eaters were gentle and rarely attacked other creatures, but this one was ramming into the tree to train itself. It was now exceptionally disciplined, as it trained of its own accord in the hopes of becoming stronger as soon as it could. It was a rare iron eater with a dream, and not lazy, saying how it was a shame that it lacked talent. Shòu pointed out how, in other words, the cub was untalented, with its only redeeming features being its determination and perseverance. Lin said that he might have been exaggerating a little bit, but that sounded about right. But there was no need to worry, as he was just a late bloomer, saying that it could be overcome by raising it inside a taming dimension. Besides, it was not every day that they got to see a disciplined iron eater. Thanks to that, his life habits were slightly erratic as well, with it having a huge appetite. After all, it needed ample nutrition to train. But even after all this, Shòu said that he would take him, thinking that working hard and cheating was the way forward. He did not want a docile pet that only knew how to eat and sleep anyways. Lin asked him if he was sure about it, thinking that tamers were usually concerned about their pet beast's talents. But Shòu assured her that he liked hard-working beasts like this one, having a feeling that they would get along well together, asking if he could have a discount. Lin said that she could understand his situation, but was sorry as they couldn't give him a discount on the price, saying that they raised every iron eater the same here. But if he were to pick this kun, she could give him a 1-month supply of iron bamboo. As Shòu happily accepted the offer, thanking her, Lin then knelt down near the cub, saying that a tamer had chosen him. The cub then turned towards Shòu, as he could hear him talk with his telepathy, saying that an iron eater would never become a slave and that he could grow stronger on his own. For iron eaters were fearless, and he did not need a tamer. Picking the rowdy cub up, Lin slammed him down, with Shòu thinking that at least he was lively. Lin explained to the cub that he wouldn't get any food if he ran away, and by becoming a tamer's pet he could grow much faster, saying that he would learn harden much more quickly. Besides, he would also gain a better environment to rest in that was far better than being here. With that, cub looked at Shòu, asking if he would get food and a bed, with Shòu replying that as long as he had the funds for it, with the cub getting happy and saying that the iron eater will never be a slave and were fearless, unless food and bed were provided. Lin said that the iron eater Shòu had chosen was very smart. Shòu thought that with a better environment and good food, it could become very capable, saying that the iron eater could have anything he wanted once he became a powerful tamer, but before that, he would have to rely on the iron eater's efforts to make a living. Shòu then asked Lin if they could forge the contract now, as she told him to go ahead, saying that she will stand guard. Lin thought about how 11, the iron eater, had finally met a tamer that wanted it. The tamers who had come before thought that it was untalented, but she did not agree. The lack of inherent talent could be overcome with a good taming dimension. This much had been proven. Besides, 11's greatest talent was not giving up, with it having a hard-working personality that craved recognition. As they formed the contract, Lin told 11 to relax and not struggle. The survivor of the rampage and an unwanted iron eater. 11 would certainly grow under Shòu's care, as she wished then 2 of them a better future. As the contract was completed, Shòu realized that this was more exhausting than he had expected, feeling that he was being stretched thin. But then he suddenly started feeling warm, as he realized that he had instantly recovered. Lin congratulated him on his contract with the iron eater, advising him to let it familiarize itself with his taming dimension, saying that it was better to not summon and send it back too frequently for now. For if it could get used to the taming dimension quickly enough, it should be able to learn harden within a week. Just then, Shòu's skills handbook also showed up, notifying him that a new pet beast contract had been detected and his tamer points had gone up, increasing his recordable skills slots. He realized that he had gained from his pet's energy, now understanding how Lin was able to subdue the cub. Even though the cub was very weak, he had still got something out of it. Looking at Shòu just standing there, Lin asked him what was wrong, snapping him out of his thoughts as he said that he somehow felt an instant improvement in his body's quality, so he was still trying to get used to it. Lin said that it was his first experience, so he should give himself some time, telling him that he will be fine once he gets used to it. She then said that they should get the rest of the papers settled, explaining to him that he can have a breeding manual as well, telling him to fill out his address so that they can send him the iron bamboo, saying that once they were finished, He was welcome to purchase more iron eaters from them, but he will be charged for them. As Shiyu said that he was fine, asking for another favor from Lin, he asked if he could take a look around, saying that he wanted to take good care of his pet beast, so he wanted to understand the real habitat of the iron eater. Lin said that he was more than free to roam around and also bring his iron eater to play with him anytime he liked, but he won't be getting any free food when he comes here. As Shiyu thought that all he needed was just to touch them. 2 hours later, Shiyu was leaving the iron bamboo breeding base. By touching the other iron eaters, he had copied the hardened skill, planning to teach it to 11 as soon as possible. Looking for an isolated place, Shiyu reached an abandoned house with an open ground, thinking that it was perfect for 11's training. Bringing out 11 from his taming dimension, he said that they were going to clean this place up together. Out of the taming dimension, 11 started snuggling up to Shiyu, making him think how cute he was, deciding to clean up the place himself. He then decided that he was going to teach 11 Harden now, but was surprised as 11 held its paw out. Suddenly, 11 activated the skill Harden on his paw, confusing Shiyu as to what just happened. 11 then got excited, trying to show how he had got the skill. Shiyu asks if he just learned the skill after having a good nap, with 11 giving him a thumbs up. Understanding that this was the growth-promoting effect of the taming dimension, he still did not expect 11 to learn the skill this soon, saying how Lin had told him that it would take about a week. He then told 11 that they were going to clean up the compound, confusing the little cub. Looking at 11's face, Shiyu told him to forget it, saying that he would try reteaching the hardened skill to it with the skills handbook. 11's harden should still be at the beginner level right now. Usually to raise a low-level skills mastery from the beginner to proficient stage requires at least a month of serious training. Wondering how many days' worth of mastery will the reteaching event be. Teaching skills with the skills handbook required stamina, thinking that perhaps he would try it with the most useless skill he had in the book, that being silk, which could not be taught to the Iron Eater. With Shiyu thinking where he was supposed to find a new beast to experiment on. Just then he heard some rustling sounds, looking around to see a green cotton worm on the tree, thinking that it will do, sending 11 to catch it but not to hurt it. Shiyu explained how it was his first battle after learning a new skill, and to take it seriously, with 11 questioning how he was supposed to do so against that. But 11 still rushed at the green cotton worm, swiftly climbing up the tree without effort. Cutting down the branch the green cotton worm was on in a single strike, as the worm fell on his paw, squeaking from fear, scared to see Shiyu's menacing look as he told 11 that he had done a good job. 11 let the green cotton worm go from his paw, as the bug was scared by the two menacing people standing behind him. Seeing that the cotton worm had a single mark on it, Shiyu understood that it must have learnt the skill once already, thinking that he wouldn't let this perfect opportunity slip from his fingers. He jumped on the cotton worm, trapping it between his hands. But the green cotton worm started shooting silk at Shiyu. But to his surprise, Shiyu caught its silk, saying that he had mastered the skill of removing their silk during the internship, so this was nothing for him, telling the cotton worm that he better cooperate or he would feed it to 11. As 11 started drooling, wondering if he could really eat the bug, opening his skills handbook, Shiyu started teaching the cotton worm the silk skill again, as the bug got filled with energy, squeaking in surprise. But Shiyu was exhausted from the process as well, saying that he felt hungry, tired, and sleepy at one. But to his surprise, a second stripe appeared on the cotton worm, wondering if this meant that the skill had been successfully taught. At that moment, the experience of using silk countless times entered the green cotton worm's consciousness, as it felt that it had become stronger. Now filled with confidence, the cotton worm used silk to jump off of Shiyu's hands, spraying more silk to tie his hands tightly. Shiyu was surprised at how skilled the worm had gotten at using silk, saying that the threads were stronger now, but they were still nothing to him, snapping them apart. He was glad that the worm and him were on the same page now, petting it gently. Its mastery of silk had risen from beginner to experienced level. The quality of its thread was on par with the high-quality green cotton worms reared on spiritual plants in the breeding base. It might be lacking in growth, but its mastery of the skill was certainly the best. The worm's level was also raised alongside its mastery, wondering if it meant that the cotton worm underwent a second transformation due to its deeper understanding of the skill, or perhaps some of Shiyu's power was channeled into it. The experiment had been a success. He still had some stamina left, wondering if he could teach it some other skill. Just then his eyes fell on the skills handbook as it showed that it was on an 8-hour cooldown. Thinking that it was understandable as he might have been able to withstand the stamina consumption just now, but using it without restraint would burn him out. The cooldown of 8 hours might have been a protective mechanism, for he might only be able to recover after having a good meal and a night's rest. Shiyu would have to train his body as well if he wanted to use the skills handbook well, For if teaching a level less skill required 8 hours of recovery, then teaching a low-level skill might need 1 or 2 days. Placing the green cotton worm in a cage, he wondered about the middle and high-level skills, thinking if there were foods or supplements that could shorten the recovery period. For he might be able to restore his condition swiftly after teaching a skill. Even pet beasts had supplements, so surely there must be some for tamers as well. But it was getting late, so Shòu decided to prepare dinner, thinking of making bamboo shoots with sliced pork and rice. 11 worried that he was talking about his bamboo. He told 11 to rest for a while as he would call for him once dinner was ready. 11 refused, saying that he had just learned harden and could not rest. He was too far behind his batchmates, so he wanted to train right away, saying that he wanted to train right now with fiery eyes. Looking at the panda throwing a tantrum, he thought Lin was right that there was something wrong with this iron eater, wondering if it did not feel worthy of dinner if it didn't train. He told 11 that there was no need to be in such a hurry, for it was fine to take a good rest, telling the iron eater to keep practicing harden in the courtyard while he waited in order to stop its tantrum. But 11 said that there wasn't anything he could use to train there. Shòu tells him to practice activating, maintaining, and releasing his skill for now, asking him to harden a specific body part within the shortest time possible, saying that he could practice the other techniques later as the panda agreed. Shòu was worried that the iron eater was going to tackle the wall with the strength of its harden, thinking that he needed to buy him equipment if he did not want it going around destroying things. But they still needed the money to afford all that, thinking he could raise the green cotton worm, for he could sell the good quality silk for a good price, deciding to look after both of them. After all it needed for now were ordinary leaves. Once the cotton worm's silk reached the perfect mastery level, it would surely be of good quality, so selling its silk would help lighten his financial burden. After finishing the dinner, Shòu was tired. 11 was now finally sleeping from all the exhaustion, thinking how it wouldn't even eat unless it trained and insisted on training after his meal, asking if it was worried that it would get abandoned again if he was not working hard enough, telling him not to worry as he would never abandon him no matter what. Shòu then sent 11 to the taming dimension, saying that he had done well. Then he wondered why he was this broke. He did not even have a cell phone or a computer, thinking that he shouldn't have returned 11 to the taming dimension, for he had never used a panda as a pillow before and wanted to know what it was like. On a new day with clear skies, the green cotton work was using its silk to collect leaves, nibbling on them peacefully. Just then it was startled as the door suddenly slammed open, with Shòu coming out declaring that he had recovered. The cool-down period was now over and all skills could be taught, thinking that he will try teaching 11 harden today. But before that, he needed to go get the supplements he was looking for, holding up the business card of the 100 Herbs Hall, telling 11 to sleep in today, for he will let him out after he is done with his shopping, as he then turned his attention to the cotton worm, greeting it. Looking at the stack of leaves, he wondered if it had collected them with its silk, thinking how the worm sure was carefree, wondering if it was unusual as well. The other worms would usually head towards more nutritious plants for their growth and nutrition, but his worm did not seem to care at all, eating the leaves of the untended persimmon tree. It was no wonder that it was malnourished. If Shòu hadn't taught him silk with his skill handbook, it would never be able to undergo a second transformation at all. Thinking that he should pick some leaves from the ordinary plants on his way home to improve his diet, he couldn't afford to buy the spiritual plants and fruits that were being fed upon by the green cotton worms in the breeding base. But there was an endless supply of ordinary plant leaves everywhere, so he couldn't let it die on him now. After all, it was his important silk supplier. Things had changed considerably compared to the scenes from his memory. Standing by the side of the road, he saw a man driving a carriage pulled by 2 snow wolves, thinking how it was such an eco-friendly way to travel as there was no pollution. But he did feel sorry for the dogs, though. Just then, someone shouted for him to stop their gemstone cat, grabbing his attention, as he saw a cat covered in jewels running towards him, with its owner running after it. He wondered if she was walking the cat, or if the cat was walking her, thinking how pet beasts weren't usually this feisty. He reckoned that she must not be a tamer, and the 2 of them must not have a contract, as gemstone cats were only kept as pets. The optical skills of gemstone cats had to be activated and evolved by using different cat's eye gemstones, and the cat's eye gemstones were more expensive than the gemstone cats themselves. A gemstone cat without a cat's eye gemstone can only be kept as a pet. A gemstone cat with a cat's eye gemstone, on the other hand, was a much sought-after beast. Finally reaching the 100 Herbs Hall, Shòu entered the building, greeted by the receptionist asking how he can help him. Shòu asked the receptionist if they bought silk, as the receptionist replied that they did, but only those produced by green cotton worms on a diet of specific herbs. If it was a high-grade silk and passed the composition test, they would purchase it directly from him, giving Shòu a list of the herbs they required. Looking at the price of the herbs, and considering his inheritance, financial assistance, and monthly loan repayment, he could only support himself and Iron Eater for another year. If he couldn't become a professional tamer within a year, he would have to work a regular job at the breeding base, and he won't be able to afford the Iron Eater either. But he could earn money by selling silk, and if he could improve the green cotton worm's silk quality to perfect level, then he would be able to support the Iron Eater and earn financial freedom. The store clerk then asked him if he was a tamer and was interested in selling silk, but Shòu replied that he couldn't currently, saying that he would just take some medicine, confusing the clerk. Carrying the bag to his home, Shòu thought how he couldn't even get on a bus without a cell phone, thinking that he had to get himself one once he had some money. Spreading out the medicine that he had bought on the table, he had gotten some clearing capsules that seemed to be made from several plant-type transcendent beasts, mainly used to relieve fatigue and strengthen one's body. The user could remain conscious and calm even when they were weak. It was said to be effective, and many tamers would take one before battles feeling instantly refreshed. He couldn't take the capsule like they were candy with his current financial situation. But with this, he could lighten the toll of using the handbook on his body. As Shòu then brought out 11 from the Taming dimension, the Iron Eater looked to be in higher spirits than before, thinking that it must be the effects of the Taming dimension. 11 said that it wanted to train for 6 hours now. Shòu tells him to not be in such a hurry to train, as he should strike a balance between work and play, thinking if it did not know that the energy he absorbed from the Taming dimension came partly from him, his tamer. Wondering why it couldn't be more considerate of him as 11 started biting Shòu. On top of that, he had to meditate to strengthen the Taming dimension and had to use the skills handbook, thinking that having a disciplined pet beast early on did not seem like a good thing at all. Wondering if he had to teach 11 absolute slumber soon, considering a mature Iron Eater should learn how to deal with its fatigue after a training session. 11, however, rolled around saying that he can't waste any more time and had to train, as Shòu told him that he could train all he wanted after he taught him absolute slumber, saying that he will teach him Harden now. Using his skills handbook, Shòu started teaching him Harden as a green light covered the area. Shòu realized that the exertion of teaching Silk and Harden was about the same. He had half expected to be knocked out from this ordeal, but it was manageable, saying that he did feel weakened, though, and it was a good thing that he had the medicine. Eating the capsule, Shòu immediately started feeling better. As he looked at 11, a smile came across his face, for 11 had leveled up, activating his now upgraded Harden skill. 11 punched the ground, breaking it apart. Shòu screamed, asking what he was doing destroying the property, as 11 tried to show him how much stronger he had become. Shòu pointed out that of course he had, since his mastery of Harden was at the experienced level now, so his combat powers must be several-fold of what they were. 11 asked Shòu what he had done to him, with Shòu bragging that he was amazing, asking him if he still wanted to train. 11 said how he did nothing yet his Harden was much improved, saying that it was unbelievable and that this mastery level did not sit right with him, with Shòu angrily telling him that he will take it back since it took half of his stamina to give him that boost, with 11 saying that he will keep it. He might not have earned the mastery level through his own hard work, but he could make up for it, saying that he will train 24 hours intensively without rest to punish himself for gaining that mastery without effort. Shocking Shòu, thinking how if the artists of the comics he read in his previous life were half as disciplined as 11, he wouldn't have run out of books to read, asking the Iron Eater to show some restraint, or it will take him to the grave. With that, 11 kept practicing, making sure not to damage the property. Shòu looked through the handbook, thinking that he could deal with the loss of stamina, but the cooldown had become much longer. The cooldown was now 24 hours, so in other words, he would have to wait another day before he could teach skills. 11's Harden was now at the experienced level, and its maintenance and stability were much improved. He could maintain it for 30 seconds now, and the speed of activation and release had improved as well. The main focus of 11's training was now to swiftly activate Harden and harden multiple body parts at the same time. If it could do that, the skill could be used to attack and defend in battle. He was not asking the Iron Eater to work on the strength of the skill for now, as it would probably destroy the house. Training equipment would be needed for that, but it would cost a lot. And since he couldn't help 11 now, he might as well see if there were any reasonably priced alternative training methods out there. 11 was training hard right now, but was also putting greater strain on his taming dimension. The 3 elements of taming dimension. Strength determines the binding intensity of the taming dimension. It was suitable for tamers who keep exchanging weaker pet beasts for stronger ones. The scale of the dimension determined how many pet beasts the tamer can enter into contract with. It was suitable for tamers who favored a battle of numbers. The dimension's environment determined the efficiency of the pet beast processing of dietary nutrition and battle experience. The better the environment, the faster the pet beast would grow. Judging by his current situation, Shòu had decided to focus on improving his dimension's environment. 11 was born on a breeding base unlike other wild beasts, so he did not have to worry about the binding intensity of his taming dimension. He was not planning on having a second pet beast anytime soon, so there was no need to be worried about the scale of his taming dimension as well, making his current priority to build a more comfortable environment for the Iron Eater. After teaching it absolute slumber, 11 could train to his heart's content without putting a strain on Shòu's stamina. With 11's discipline, his taming dimension and support of the skills handbook, as long as he got enough nutrition, he was sure that it would grow rapidly, thinking that the cost of buying food for it would probably skyrocket as well. But everything would be worth it if 11 could become a dependable combat power. The next day, as the cottonworm was happily eating its leaves and persimmons, Shòu was almost done modifying his taming dimension through meditation. 11 could move in once it was done with its training. Peeking with his eye, he saw that 11 was as disciplined as always, and would be able to work on his strength starting tomorrow. The next day, Shòu heard knocking at the door. The durable alloy steel boards he had ordered 2 days ago had arrived. After the delivery men left, he thought he would let 11 check if there were any defects in the steel boards. But as he was summoning the Iron Eater, he felt that something was different. And as 11 came out, he now had a new red scarf around his neck. It was the 4th transformation, making Shòu happy on his decision to improve the taming dimension's environment first. Now he was one step closer to becoming a professional tamer. He congratulated 11, saying that he would buy him something delicious today, which he could have as an extra menu item to celebrate his achievement. He then told 11 it could start working on the strength of its harden now, worried that it might not be the most suitable environment to test his strength. But 11 turned around asking Shòu to hit him, saying that a brave Iron Eater did not fear pain. But Shòu still couldn't bring himself to hit the panda. Plus, he would be the one going numb from the impact, so it was inefficient. Besides, he had made preparations for him, showing 11 the durable alloy steel boards, saying that he could hammer these instead of the walls. If he thought that it was not hard enough or that the effects of the training weren't noticeable, he could stack more boards on top of each other, and then use gravity to support his training, telling him to charge at the boards from the tops of the tree and the roof, calling it training by falling, and he could adjust the intensity of the training by adjusting the height of his starting point. If he could jump from the clouds and land without a scratch, he would be invincible. As 11 said, why didn't he think of this training, hugging Shòu? On a new day, the green cottonworm was enjoying its leaves once again, but it was suddenly startled by the sounds of loud banging, as 11 was practicing its strength by slamming into the alloy steel boards, with enough force that all the boards which had been stacked together broke apart. As he stood there proudly amongst the rubble, seeing that his paw had gotten injured, 11 used the skill Quick Heal on it, healing all of his injuries instantly, as the Iron Eater got ready for the next session, taking out more durable alloy steel boards. His training with the alloy steel boards was going well, with 11's harden having reached proficient level. The boards could be used to train the strength of his harden, and they also served as 11's food, since he could now chew on and digest metals. The green cotton worm had also undergone its 4th transformation, and had reached the proficient level with its silk, the durability of which was comparable to fishing lines, and could use the threads as extensions of its body. So Shòu was looking forward to the worm's growth. It was all thanks to the supplements that he could manage to train 11 and the green cotton worm at the same time. He could feel an improvement in his body's constitution every time he recovered from the fatigue of using the skills handbook, comparing it to the fatigue from working out. Skill mastery levels range from beginner, experienced, proficient, perfect, and flawless, with 11's harden now being at proficient level. He could now achieve a fluid coverage with its harden, with the green cotton worm being at the same level with its skill. It was time to see the results of the training. Shòu told 11 to take a break from training this afternoon and try to eat up during lunch, for it was now time for some actual combat, getting 11 excited for what was about to come. There were 3 undisputed means to make a pet beast grow: food, training, and combat. It did not have to be a life or death battle at this stage. What 11 needed right now was a regulated battle against an opponent of similar strength in a reputable center. Shòu wouldn't risk 11's life. It was better to develop steadily with the help of the skills handbook. Looking at the map, Shòu realized that his desired destination was far away. He could even venture into the wilderness and battle wild creatures. To become a professional tamer, he had to pass the basic examination, the actual combat examination, and the survival examination. He would deal with the survival trials when the time came, for it was too risky for him now. He could just join the Tamers Association's wilderness training if he wanted to experience battling in the wild. Currently, it would be safer with professionals around. As Shi Yu took the bus, finally reaching his destination, the Pingcheng District Tamers Battle Gym. Reaching the reception desk, Shi Yu told the receptionist that he would like to battle, explaining that this was his first time here, so could they give him a tour of this place. The receptionist explained that they provided battle venues for beasts below the transcendent rank, telling Shi Yu that he can choose to have an arranged battle or a random battle here. An arranged battle is where the tamer picked their own opponent with the gym providing the venue, referee, and medical services. But in a random battle, they would assign the tamer an opponent based on the information they provide. There were 2 categories, level 1 to 6 and 7 to 10. In the random battle mode, the beasts were grouped based on the level of the tamer's beasts. The gym will assign them a suitable level and randomly pick an opponent based on that. The fees for using their services was the same across the board, that being $100, making Shi Yu gasp at the price, thinking how expensive it was and that he could feed himself for 3 days with that money. But considering the costs for the maintenance, referees, and medical services, it seemed to be a reasonable price. The fees might have been higher if the government did not support gyms like these. The receptionist then explained that they also had gamble battles, where the opponents may place bets and the loser will pay the fees for both participants. In other words, the loser will have to pay $200 while the winner won't have to pay a single penny, making Shi Yu drool at the offer. Shi Yu decided that they would go with the gamble battle of level 6 and below, as 11 was currently at level 5 with its harden and quick heal. They might even stand a chance against a level 6 beast. He did feel sorry for his opponent, but he had to do this to save money, saying that he wouldn't have any complaints if he lost, hoping that they will get a weak opponent but not someone too weak. As the receptionist asked him to fill out the form, Shi Yu asked if he could increase the stakes of the gamble, saying he might as well go all out with this. But the receptionist apologized, for they did not do that here, making Shi Yu sad. She then gave him a card, asking him to wait in the lobby, explaining that his name and battle avenue would be displayed on the screen when an opponent was assigned to him. Just then another boy was filling out the battle form, along with his pet beast, an ice armadillo. His classmates were too weak for him, thinking that he would never make it as a tamer in that environment. But the battle gym had no age or level restrictions, hoping that he would learn from the intern tamers here. That being said, he was the top student, so it was impossible for him to lose. The system then announced that it was Shi Yu's turn to battle, telling him to proceed to Arena 11, with his opponent being the student from before, Tamer Chen Kai. Shi Yu felt that he was lucky to get the number 11, thinking that this was a home field battle for him, but was concerned if he was going to remain single in this life as well, since the number 11 was associated with being a monk. Just then Shi Yu noticed Chen, as the two thought if they were each other's opponent. At the arena, we saw that the people were excited for the match to start. A man named Bai Shu introduced himself as the manager and referee of Arena 11, giving Shi Yu and his opponent temporary rights to use the arena, saying that they had an hour to fight. They were free to start the battle once they were ready, and he would serve as their referee, encouraging them to get started right away. On cue, Shi Yu activated his taming dimension, summoning his Iron Eater, as 11 came out ready to fight. His opponent Chen also activated his taming dimension, summoning his ice-type pet beast, with the ice armadillo coming out to battle. With their match being displayed across the gym screen, the people were excited to see the novices fight, with a girl calling out her friend Yue, pointing out that there was a battle that still hadn't started yet. Yue seemed to know Chen as her friend observed that they were wearing the same school's uniform. Yue said that her classmate was very strong, with her friend asking who was stronger between Yue and Chen. Yue explained that she couldn't hold a candle to him, and that no one in their entire grade was a match for him. His ice armadillo was a level 6 beast, and had reached the experience level for both its skills. Her friend was amazed by this, pointing out that the opponent's beast was an Iron Eater, the same as hers. Yue did not know Shi Yu, but judging from her experience with Iron Eaters, Shi Yu's looked to be lower than level 6, thinking that he was going to lose, saying that it would have a hard time breaking the ice armor unless it mastered Harden to the experience level. Besides, Iron Eaters were known to be slackers, so Iron Eaters of this level usually only master Harden to the beginner level. If she had another choice, she would never pick the Iron Eater just because it looked cute anymore, as her pet beast was too lazy, and it was such a pain to train it, saying that Shi Yu's Iron Eater might not even be a match for the Ice Armadillo at the experienced level. After all, the Ice Armadillo's skills were much greater than its. In terms of overall quality, adult Iron Eaters were better than Ice Armadillos. But that was when they were adults, and clearly this one was still a cub. Chen then told his Ice Armadillo to use Icy Slash, as the Ice Armadillo jumped in to attack with its claws. The referee noted that the armadillo had some nice explosive strength, saying that Chen had raised it well, as expected of a student from an elite school. Just as the ice armadillo was about to attack, Shiyu told 11 to use Harden. 11 immediately activated the skill, blocking the ice armadillo's attack at full force, causing the ice armadillo's claws to break and shatter apart. As 11 had tanked the attack without even taking a single scratch, Chen was shocked that the icy slash was destroyed. As without losing a moment, Shiyu told 11 to counter, with the Iron Eater jumping at the ice armadillo with its paw hardened. Chen then told his ice armadillo to use ice armor. The beast then covered itself in thick ice scales, hiding its entire body. But 11 slammed into it with the full force of its harden, cracking the ice armor immediately to the armadillo's shock, sending it flying with the attack. As the armadillo crashed into the wall, flying past Chen, Chen was still unable to believe this. To think that his perfect armadillo had lost. That was impossible. The performance of 11's harden in actual combat had exceeded Shiyu's expectation. If he knew that this would have happened, he wouldn't have needed to inspire 11's fighting spirit with its dinner. He was surprised that the match was already over, for it was not what he had expected when he signed up for a battle against an evenly matched opponent, thinking that he would need to look for stronger opponents to further test 11's strength. The referee was confused about what had just happened, wondering if the power level of Shiyu's Iron Eater's harden was at proficient level, but it was only a young level 5 Iron Eater. Yue was surprised to see the same, that a young Iron Eater could develop harden to this level. Her friend teased that her classmate had lost, with Yue saying that she did not know Chen. It was unbelievable for a level 5 Iron Eater to master harden to the proficient level, thinking that it had amazing talents. Also wondering if Shiyu was actually a high-ranking tamer who was training a new pet beast. Either that, or he was from a rich family of tamers with top-grade supplements or unique training methods, hoping that this wouldn't break Chen Kai's spirit. Putting away the ice armadillo in his taming dimension, Chen thought how he had never heard Iron Eater and its tamer before, as he turned to see that 11 was waving its paw at him, angrily thinking that school was the only place for him, and that society was full of monsters, with 11 winking at him, asking if he had ever touched a steel board at 4 a.m. The referee then declared that the ice armadillo was unable to battle, so the winner was Shiyu, with the two being happy that they had won. Putting 11 back in his taming dimension, he told it to get some rest. After Shiyu was done putting 11 back into his taming dimension, Chen asked him if he was a tamer from Pingcheng too, wondering if he was a student or not. He needed to know who he had lost to, as Shiyu's strength was unbelievable. Shiyu answered that he had just graduated, but he actually attended the school in Glacier City. Chen thought about how Pingcheng District was the suburbs of Glacier City, so it was natural that the quality of education was lower than that of the city, with some students having outstanding academic achievements doing all they can to enroll in the schools in the city. He was an outstanding student in Pingcheng, but compared to a student from a city, he did not know where he stood. But that still did not quite explain the difference between them. Thinking that Shiyu must be one of the most outstanding young tamers in the city, for there was always someone better out there, so he had to work harder. Shiyu then started to leave, saying his goodbyes to Chen, but just then something hit Chen's mind. He told the referee that something did not add up, for his graduation was 1 month away. But Shiyu had just said that he graduated recently, with the referee saying that he must be talking about the graduation timing of the battle major. The other majors such as referee, medical, and breeding graduated sooner due to their internships and job placements, shocking Chen that the one who defeated him wasn't even a battle major. The referee then asked Chen if he needed to take his ice armadillo to the health center, and since this was a gamble battle, he had to pay his opponent's fees as well, with Chen agreeing to go to the health center first. Even though his ice armadillo could recover in his taming dimension to a certain extent, it would still need proper care. And since he was going to pay the $200 anyways, he might as well use the services provided here. At the reception desk, Shiyu was shocked that he couldn't challenge opponents of higher levels, with the receptionist explaining that tamers were grouped according to the levels of their pet beasts. This was because the opponent might not want to battle someone weaker than them, as Shiyu asked the clerk if she saw his battle, saying that with the combat enhancement of the proficient level harden, it would be difficult for him to find a match unless it was someone from the level 7 to 10 category. The receptionist told him that he could battle someone he knew, and they would provide the arena and offer him their various services. But how was Shiyu supposed to look for an opponent if he did not know anyone here, with him also being an introvert? He then started to leave, saying that he would check out the Tamers Association, thanking the clerk for her help. The Tamers Association also served the role of accepting and announcing missions with rewards. Tamers could take on missions here and be rewarded once they were completed. The Tamers Association had curated this list of missions for intern tamers, and tamers would be put to test in these missions. It was similar to the wilderness training organized once every 3 months by the Tamers Association in Pingcheng for intern tamers, as these programs were meant to train local intern tamers. Every city wanted to have more professional tamers that were also capable. Missions and wilderness training sessions were meant to help intern tamers build their foundation. But missions below the transcendent rank were focused on training tamers and their pet beasts, as they were mainly meant to provide training venues for the intern tamers. Missions like those were tiring and unrewarding. Shiyu might be able to earn more by having 11 transport bricks, but it was more important to find a suitable opponent from these missions than earning money. Even if he couldn't find a suitable opponent, he could still find missions suitable for 11's training. But he had to consider 11's mental and physical health, so he couldn't let it train at home all the time. Having him jump off a building day after day would certainly mess with his mind. Seeing how 11 was clearly delighted after the battle, Shiyu then found a mission about catching stray cats, who had organized a large-scale thief syndicate in the district. Thinking how, considering the intelligence level of some transcendent beasts, it was entirely possible for them to form a syndicate. Wondering what the cats even stole. Thinking about things like seafood, cat food, etc. He liked the reward, but still couldn't take the mission as it required a flying-type beast, so he would have to pass. Then Shiyu started looking across all available 1-star missions, thinking how none of them were suitable for 11 after 1 hour of searching. Some of the missions were clearly trying to hire tamers as cheap labor. For example, the mission of capturing live wind locusts by the local restaurant. Wind locusts were transcendent beasts, but they were agricultural pests and were also a local delicacy. So it was cheaper for them to procure locusts this way rather than purchasing them from traders. The only disadvantage was that this was a less efficient way. But this was clearly not an urgent mission with a time limit, as perseverance was key, so it seemed suitable. But 11 couldn't fly, so it would be difficult for it to complete the mission. And wind locusts could use the skill wind wing, so they were fast and nimble. 11 could only harden its entire body to deal with the ice armadillo's swift attack, so its reaction speed and eyesight would prove disadvantageous against the swift and nimble opponents. Thinking that perhaps he should teach it super sight next time. The Iron Eater's explosive strength coupled with super sight enabled it to precisely pinpoint its opponent's attacks. With this, 11's combat strength would improve again. After teaching 11 super sight, he could let it take on this mission to train its reflexes. But for now, this mission to exterminate earth rats seemed more suitable. Earth rats were at the bottom of the pet beast world. Their race skill was Earth Escape, which enabled them to escape underground. But in terms of combat strength, they were on par with stray dogs. Adults could take them on with a weapon in hand, but earth rats reproduced quickly, so there were usually too many of them. They were also nimble and would band together when under threat. The threat of the rats could not be judged based on their levels alone. Fortunately, their usual course of action was to escape whenever they encountered another creature. Otherwise, they would have been a greater nuisance. Even so, they were worse than wild locusts, being referred to as one of the 4 great pests. There were fewer of them in the city, but they were abundant in villages, so it would be difficult to get rid of them completely. The Earth Rat mission was collectively issued by several villages in the Pingchen district. It was a long-term mission. Tamers would form parties and go exterminate rats every day. Exterminating earth rats might not be easier than capturing wild locusts, but this could be a good opportunity to train 11's reflexes, as it would have to locate the rats and take them out before they can escape, like a game of whack-a-mole. Thinking that it was a good idea to let 11 train its reflexes for a few days. Since its harden was already at the proficient level, it was time to work on something else for a change. Just then, Shiyu ran into Chen, asking if his ice armadillo was all right. Chen explained that it had recovered, with Shiyu asking if he was here to take on missions as well. Chen asked what kind of missions Shiyu was taking, wondering what kind of missions an elite like him would take on, wanting to learn from his choices. Shiyu told him that he was exterminating earth rats, shocking Chen that he was doing it alone. Chen explained that people usually took on such missions as a group. As earth rats were cunning, it was way easier to take them out when working with others. Chen then asked Shiyu if he could form a party with him to take on the mission, making Shiyu wonder what had gotten into him. Considering what he had done in the last battle, how could he be so proactive? Shiyu said that he did not think it would make much of a difference. Chen ignores him and says that he will invite 2 of his classmates. One of them would stall the rats, one would attract attention, and the rest would attack, saying that it will be more efficient this way. With Shiyu thinking if Chen was planning to battle a boss monster. Chen said that a handful of earth rats won't be a problem, but if they gathered in huge numbers, it would be a pain to deal with. Shi Yu thought that it might not be a bad idea to form a party as he couldn't stay a recluse forever. He then agreed to partying up with Chen for the mission, with Chen excitedly saying that he would ask his classmates to join them tonight, and they will form a standard 4-team party, wanting to see how Shi Yu trained his pet beast, and how well he could train a lazy iron eater. Back at the 100 Herbs Hall, the clerk was surprised to see Shi Yu again. It was his 3rd time visiting this month, making the clerk wonder what he was doing for a living. Shi Yu explained that his pet beast had been training a lot lately, and since he always had a frail physique since young, so he was here again. The clerk handed him the supplements he had asked for, putting out multiple boxes of the clearing capsules, saying that he should switch his supplier to protect his reputation. Back home at night, Shi Yu and 11 were enjoying their dinner happily. Shi Yu then told 11 to come over, saying that it was time for him to learn a new skill. 11 was conflicted as he always wanted to say that he was strong because of his own hard work. But he could never bring himself to say that right now, as Shi Yu began teaching him super sight. Shi Yu explained that he could activate super sight using his mental energy, and that 11's eyesight should be boosted, making him able to see clearly at night, leaving Shi Yu exhausted after the process as 11 rubbed his eyes. After that, 11 went outside to test his eyes, being able to see clearly in the night, thinking that with this it would be easier for him to train at night, and he would make up for all the slacking off he had been doing. Shi Yu was surprised to see the cooldown now having increased to 48 hours, thinking that he was only going to start recovering after tomorrow morning. He hoped that 11 wouldn't be crashing onto the steel boards tonight, letting him have a good night's rest, thinking that it should have no problems catching the earth rats tomorrow with such spirits. Back at home, Chen was on his computer, chatting with his classmates. He had put up a notice that he was going to take on the earth rat mission tomorrow and needed 2 members to join them, as he suddenly received a DM from Yue that she had seen him at the arena in the afternoon. Shocked by this, Chen almost spat out his drink. He asked her what she had seen as she answered that she saw everything, with Chen worried about his reputation, as now all the girls from the class will know about it as well, meaning that the entire class would know that he was defeated by a random guy. They continued to chat as Yue asked Chen about Shi Yu, with him wondering if she wanted to get some Iron Eater taming tips from him. Yue admitted to it, saying that she couldn't meet him as he left too early. Chen asks her to join their party and to find another tamer with a control-type pet beast. The next day outside the Tamers Association building, all of them had gathered. Seeing Shi Yu yawn, Chen asked if he had a rough night. Shi Yu told him that he was all right. 11 did him a favor by sleeping last night, but the after effects of skill teaching were too strong. Shi Yu then asked Chen where the others were, as he explained that they should be here soon. Just then, Yue and her friend arrived, greeting Chen. Chen introduced the two to Shi Yu, saying that Yue was his classmate, and the other girl was her friend, a tamer from the experimental middle school, Yu Jingjing. Shi Yu greeted the two, as the two suddenly swarmed him, calling him master, making Shi Yu feel awkward. Chen explained that the two had seen the match between him and Shi Yu yesterday. With that, he said that everyone should introduce their beasts now, saying that he had a level 6 ice armadillo, having the skills Icy Slash and Ice Armor. Yu explained that she had a level 6 Iron Eater, with its skill being Harden at a beginner level, ashamed of herself after seeing Shi Yu's Iron Eater having already mastered at the proficient level. Yu said that she had a level 6 Brambles, with its skill being Entangle at an experienced level. Shi Yu went last, saying that he had a level 5 Iron Eater, having the skill Harden at the proficient level, shocking everyone as they couldn't believe it, with Shi Yu thinking that they will understand once they saw how hard-working 11 was. Chen then said that they should get registered for the mission now, for they would depart at 8 a.m. sharp, as the group took the bus to their destination. During the ride, Chen said that he had forgotten to ask Shi Yu yesterday about how he had said that he graduated recently, meaning that he was not a battle major, surprising Yue at how his pet beast was still so strong. Shi Yu explained that he was a breeding major, saying that fighting and killing were too gruesome for him, and mastering how to breed beasts was the way forward, saying how it was normal for a tamer with a breeding major to produce an Iron Eater with such a high level of talents. Reaching their destination, the villagers greeted them excitedly at the Bakshi village, thanking them for coming here to exterminate the earth rats, handing the group their new working uniforms. Shi Yu noted how the villagers sure were passionate, wondering how they were even supposed to start their work on such large fields. Shi Yu then told them that they should bring out their pet beasts, thinking how 11 with his super sight was paramount to locate the earth rats in such a complex environment. As the other three got excited, agreeing with Shi Yu, Chen and Yu taking out their ice armadillo and brambles, and Shi Yu and Yue taking out their respective Iron Eaters, with Yue's Iron Eater being way bigger in size than 11. Yue asked Shiyu if he had gotten his iron eater from the iron bamboo breeding base as well, thinking about how his iron eater's growth was perfect. Judging by the sheen of its fur and its physique, it seemed to be in good health. She then excitedly asked if Shiyu was an apprentice of the bamboo rock gym, as he explained that he wasn't. The iron bamboo breeding base was where the iron eaters were bred, while the bamboo rock gym was a dedicated training location for tamers with iron eaters. The current leader of the rock gym was a grandmaster-level tamer who focused on raising iron eaters, with his iron eater having electric and fire-type moves aside from harden. Having a unique way of raising iron eaters, he was said to be the tamer who knew how to raise iron eaters the best in the Glacier City. She was surprised that Shiyu was not from the bamboo rock gym. Chen said that gym leader Lin must be the most powerful tamer in Pingcheng. There were 3 levels to a tamer, intern, professional, and grandmaster. The professional level was further divided into early, middle, and later stages. And the bamboo rock gym leader Lin was a grandmaster tamer. Yu was not sure if gym leader Lin was the most powerful tamer in Pingcheng, but his daughter, the youngest professional tamer in Pingcheng. She passed the professional when she was 18, and then enrolled in one of the 9 major academies. She should have graduated by now, wondering what level she was at right now. Yue said that Yu's information was outdated, and Lin Shuju took up a breeding major and was now back in Pingcheng, as she had helped her pick her iron eater. She said that she studied breeding because she wanted to research if iron eaters could possibly evolve further, wondering if she had succeeded yet, as the research was difficult. Grandmaster Lin had been raising iron eaters all his life, but had found no evidence that iron eaters could evolve anymore. Thinking that this was as far as iron eaters go, looking at her panda sleeping, for even if he did, it had nothing to do with them. 11 was, however, very excited as he suddenly started barking. Shiyu informs the others that they had found an earth rat, with the group getting ready for action, as 11 pointed towards a patch of grass in the fields. Chen said that judging by its size, it should be a level 4, and not much of a threat as it was isolated, with the challenge now being to take it out before it escaped, as they saw the earth rat running away with a berry in its hand. Yu explained that the books say that earth rats were careful, as they were more sensitive to temperature than sound or light, so it might notice the ice armadillo and iron eaters if they were to get near, making her brambles to get close and catch it. As the vines slowly reached the earth rat, it reacted, dodging all of the vines in order not to get trapped by the entangle. As it was running away, Chen tried to stop it with his ice armadillo, but the earth rat jumped over the ice armadillo, getting away. But it suddenly stopped, becoming nervous, as something slammed into the ground before it. 11 staring it down ferociously, as the vines finally trapped it, with the others wondering what kind of power that was, as if something had fallen from the skies, thinking that they could take on a horde of earth rats with 11 like this.